you telling me that you have a way to defer the tax situation there? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And so the first one I was referring to is a 1031 exchange, which only applies to investment real estate. The second one I'm referring to is called a deferred sales trust.
A real eye-opener to see that there are ways that people can use the regulatory framework, if properly structured, to invest 1031 exchange dollars in things that you would not think were like kind to what they exited from. So it was very impressive. I got to say, you are the first one I've seen pull this off, and I'm pretty hesitant to believe in a lot of these kinds of things. So it's a major feat for me to say, wow, this actually really worked, and it was really cool.
1031 is a way to shelter your income when you sell the thing. The DST is a way to avoid the 1031 and not have to suffer the time penalty.
Our career and during different tax periods, we've seen, these tax avoidance, tax minimization, offshore, all these different strategies undertaken to minimize or avoid taxes. And then I can tell you that, some of them are just not worth the trouble. And so I was skeptical. Admittedly, I was skeptical. I thought, oh yeah, here we go, another one of these, right? And then they say, no, it really is different, right? So look more closely. We looked more closely. We had, honestly, 2 years of conversations. 2 years. Now we were being due diligence at the same time that we were doing due diligence, but 2 years is a long time to be, sort of flirting with the idea of and getting to know the people and getting to really understand the transaction. Yeah, long story short, we got comfortable, although we are not tax attorneys, lawyers, or estate planning attorneys, that at least, from an investment perspective, that, it made sense to sell a highly appreciated asset, get liquid, hold that in this type of a deferred or installment sale type of instrument, and then just be in a position then to do the most important thing. I'm probably stealing your next question, which is time. They say, well, you can't make more time. You can. The Deferred Sales Trust, in a way, allows you to lengthen the investment time horizon for those assets after getting liquid, but before having to feel the tax impact. And from an investment manager's perspective, time horizon is the most important element in investing.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Friday Deferred Sales Trust Masterclass Mastermind, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, and not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is, if not the best way, one of the best ways for sure to exit highly appreciated assets. And this can be cryptocurrency, businesses, real estate. You can save a failed 1031 exchange so you can create and preserve more wealth, or help your clients, friends, and family do the same. For those who don't know me, my name is Brett Swarts, and I'm founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. I'm live here, by the way, in Florida, doing a little reconnaissance on some real estate and seeing if it's still free out here. So far, so good. It's been a good week, and I had a chance to meet with a strategic alliance of mine, and just really focus again on what's so important about diversification, right? And the ability to diversify in times like this. And we're going to be talking about diversification today, and it's going to be our focus piece. But we're also going to be talking about some deal close stories, or some deals that are closing, and answering frequently asked questions, as well as taking live questions from any of our attendees. If you're wanting to attend this next week, you are welcome to join us, and you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. In fact, to get your deferred sales trust started today, you can also join our mastermind masterclass, where we have different topics every single week. But the general framework is this: we talk about the overall value of the deferred sales trust, some frequently asked questions, some deal close stories, just to try to make this as simple as possible so that you can execute and you don't run out of time on your transaction. That being said, I am joined by some amazing individuals who build the dream team, and part of the dream team of the Deferred Sales Trust is a financial advisor. So I'm joined by Jake Miller, a certified financial planner, and so much more. Jake, how you doing today?
Doing wonderful, Brett. And it's always fun to see the remote places that you're calling in from. I can see an art gallery back there and a coffee shop, and I can just imagine that you're in the field, beating the bush, getting things done.
Absolutely, that's what we love to do, and that's the beautiful state of Florida. I'm in the Jacksonville area. If you're running Jacksonville Airport, flying in a few hours back to California. And, Jake, the power of diversification is the topic of today's discussion, right? And the power of, in particular, how the deferred sales trust can allow you to do that. But let's just first, chat about, as a certified financial planner, from an investment perspective, Mr. David Young said time is one of the most valuable things, but also so is diversification. So just talk about the power of diversification for creating and preserving wealth, especially for times like this, Jake.
Absolutely, Brett. In fact, times like this are extra beneficial or extra rewarding for me because there are moments that people really, really listen to the need to diversify. Not only diversifying their asset classes, not only diversifying their level of liquidity, but also diversifying their tax characteristics of their future income as well as their current income. There are investments that are fully taxable, fully deferred. There are investments that are tax favored, and there are investments that are tax free or tax exempt, as well as there are liquidity needs that are usually dictated by an individual's objectives. So why are they investing? What is the money for? And when do they need it? Being able to manage all of these parameters from a CFO type standpoint, a director of finances for a client is extra important, especially in today's volatile market. There might be moments that, Brett, they should be holding in a safe, secure location like treasury bills. There might be moments when they should double down in a stock that has an intrinsic value that is currently discounted and on sale, might not ever be this cheap again. And they shouldn't be greedy trying to time, but they should just have a plan and execute according to the plan. Now, individuals' plans change with the global economy. They change with the local economy. They change with politicians. They change with pandemics. And so all of these things should be addressed on a consistent basis. That is why some financial advisors charge more as an AUM fee or charge more from a consulting standpoint because clients need more than ever before from a fiduciary. And anyway, I could talk on and on and on about this. This is wonderful information that people should have. Diversifying doesn't just mean put money into a mutual fund that is across 20 to 100 different derivatives. Diversifying is quite an important discussion that everybody should have about their money that they currently have today and the money that they hope to have tomorrow.
Yeah, very well said. I couldn't agree more. As well, the power of the diversification as it applies to the deferred sales trust is not only can you go into treasury bills and stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, but you can also go into lending funds and real estate funds, and you can also be an active participant in a business or active participant in an investment real estate deal. And this creates the opportunity to be not only diversify with an asset class, and also what Jake talked about as far as timing. There's no timing restrictions as far as diversify the timing in which you're going into these investments, but also to diversify if you're an entrepreneur. I have we're looking at a deal this week for a potential client, and this gentleman he has a lot of apartment complexes, and in fact they're all kind of in one city, and he's going, man, I have a lot that at this city, if you remember the last recession, the market crashed and this particular city was hit pretty hard. And so he's going, perhaps it's wise. He's around 60 and he's going, perhaps it's wise to now diversify and don't have as many eggs in one basket, although the properties are doing well and they're cash flowing and doing fine. So he's looking at it as a more preservation play right now, rather than perhaps waiting too long to when the market starts to maybe shift even more. And when that happens, it might take a number of years before he's able to recover some of those values. That's number one. Number two, though, he's looking to diversify his cash flow, and in particular, not have to rely on the cash flow come from one asset, but also even just increase the cash flow, which is pretty awesome, right? So he's able to, generally speaking, by the way, we're able to increase cash flow with the deferred sales trust by 50 to 60% on average. So let's say you have an asset that's producing $100,000 of income, depending on the equity on that. Generally speaking, we're able to increase that maybe by an extra $50,000 or $60,000. It'd be about $150,000, $160,000. That's generally speaking. For him, it was almost like double. We're going to double his income on his cash flow, which is pretty remarkable. And so the power of diversification can not only be for timing, It can also be for your getting multiple cash flow positions in different assets. And it can also be for just safety. And so that being said, Jake, what else do you feel people want to know about the deferred as it applies to the deferred sales trust for diversification?
I think a lot of people, Brett, have been rather limited by others and the options that they've been provided. And what do I mean by that? With the deferred sales trust, we get the question almost every single time. What if I want to invest in something more than just marketable securities, something more than just an index? And unequivocally, the answer is yes. You just have to have a trustee, you have to have a financial advisor, individuals around you that can support you in those desires, that can support you in those objectives, and perhaps have the experience to bring recommendations to the table to choose from.
Absolutely. It also means diversification of some control. That's one of the things that we get asked a lot. And one of the biggest objections, let's say, to the deferred sales trust is, oh, I feel like I'm giving up all my control. Well, you're giving up some control. You have what's called indirect control, but that creates also we like to say, and earn the right to become a part of your dream team to help make great decisions. But nothing ever moves out your approval. Now, as a trustee, I also have to approve as part of the integrity of the trust. So it's this team aspect here, but I'm a friendly trustee and we want to approve and move things forward as quickly as possible. But that also brings an opportunity to have wise counsel on multiple aspects. And part of what we really believe and value is in having a unique skill set with investment real estate, especially multifamily investment real estate, brokerage development investing, and also bringing folks like Jake Miller, who's also an expert in all things entrepreneurial, even real estate as well, but even at a higher level with financial planning and its securities investments and insurance. And you bring that together, and we have this diversification of thought and diversification of ideas, which can hopefully also add the opportunity for you to grow your wealth and see things that perhaps you wouldn't normally see, or perhaps your other team wouldn't see. So it might be kind of loud here, I can't tell, but Jake, any other thoughts on that?
One of the nice things is that, Brett, we can move seamlessly in and out of investments without having to incur that taxable event for the current year. One of an individual's, several of my clients previously, prior to the deferred sales trust, one of their biggest hesitations in moving in and out of an investment for investment reasons was the tax consequence. And so the fact that we can move in and out as if this were like a 401k, but it's a deferred sales trust, it's a business trust. It is built for this so that today, if real estate is good, we own the real estate. Tomorrow, if crypto is good, we can jump into crypto. The next day, if my best friend's sister's tech company is a fantastic investment, I can participate with her. And I can do that without losing chunks of my wealth to taxes every single transition because of the deferred sales trust.
Yeah, and the amounts are about 25 to 50% of your gain if you're curious, right? So let's say you bought something for $1 million and it went to $3 million, that'd be a $2 million gain. But depending on what state you're in, and depending if you've taken depreciation on that asset that you're selling, your tax on that gain, that $2 million, would be 25% up to 50%. So it's a huge amount. So here are the questions you want to ask. Number one, what's the estimated value of the asset you're selling? Number two, what's the estimated adjusted basis, right? Your basis is what you purchased it for, plus improvements, minus any depreciation. Number three, what's the current debt on the asset? With those three things, we can kind of map out what your potential tax liability will be. Of course, check with your CPA so we can double check on these things. And we can kind of game plan as far as how and what we need to do to either mitigate or offset all or some of that tax or defer that tax. It could also be a state tax, right? A state tax is a big challenge for many of folks before they find us. And once they find us, we're able to map out a plan without buying insurance, without having to do any gifting, and without having to give it all away to charity, that you can eliminate the estate tax with something called the DST 2.0. You can check that out. We actually did a full breakdown of that about 4 weeks ago, DST 1.0 versus 2.0, and the power of eliminating the estate tax, which, as a reminder for everyone on this call, a stepped up basis does not eliminate estate tax. A stepped up basis does essentially eliminate capital gains tax if your heirs were to sell at the same value in which they inherited the property or the asset at the time of your death. But it does not eliminate death tax or estate tax. It's a completely other tax. So you want to make sure that you have the right not only team to help you execute this, but you also have the right strategy that's actually going to solve the problem. Because if you're trying to solve for estate tax and you're using something that's not solving for that, then you're not going to be very happy, or your legacy is going to be hit with that 40% tax. So the key here is, what are you trying to get to, right? What's your B? What's your outcome? Where are you trying to go? And then A, where are you at right now? And how do we connect those dots to make it as seamless as possible? That being said, Jake, let's talk about some live deals, and then let's open up for questions. By the way, if anyone has questions along the way, you can type it into the chat. You can also unmute yourself and ask your question. Happy to take those questions and kind of answer them one by one. But as a reminder, Jake, what's our minimum size deal in case someone's like, hey, I'm ready to take action right now? What is our minimum size so that people understand that?
Absolutely. Now, of course, there's minimums for, hey, we need to really look at this and see if it makes sense. But there's the easy minimums, the easy home run, like this is a no-brainer, and that's $1 million gross proceeds, $1 million taxable capital gain, so almost zero basis. And obviously the tax paying is sufficient. Like literally on $1 million, we're looking at 20% federal. So that's, 200,000 plus 3.8% possible Obama tax, right? Plus possible state income tax, which if you're in Cali taxation, Brett, which you try to escape every time we talk, right? But if you're in Cali taxation, that could be another 13.3% state income tax because they don't recognize a preferable capital gains tax. So some people are paying above 40 and close to 50% of the proceeds. And of course, if it's $1 million and it's just state because you're in the wonderful state of Florida or somewhere else, right? It's still painful enough that, man, I'd love to reinvest $1 million rather than just 800,000. All right. So $1 million net proceeds and all of that being subject to capital gains is an easy home run for any DST deal.
Perfect. And a quick lightning round too, Jake. Just yes or no, right? Can the deferred sales trust diversify into really any investment except maybe a primary home?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, right. Can the deferred sales trust diversify as far as timing, making dollar cost average in or out of investments?
Si, senor.
Yes, it can, right? And can the deferred sales trust also basically work for any type of asset, right? So you might own a mix between, public stock, private stock, a primary home, a business, investment real estate, crypto. Can we work for all different assets?
Oui.
Yes, you got it. So this is the deferred sales trust diversification, the power of that. If you want to get started today, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You also can get started by going to strategictaxsolutions.com with Jake Miller. Either one, just let us know that you found us here so that we can schedule a time with you and get the deferred sales trust going. All right. That being said, let's talk about some deal stories, Jake. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So the one I was talking about this week and that we're working through right now, this particular gentleman, again, has multiple assets. And one of the questions was, well, can I sell each asset slowly and add it to one trust? So Jake, talk about the flexibility of selling multiple assets at different times and how that would work into moving into one trust.
Absolutely. So the nice thing about this is that unlike some other strategies, we don't have to recreate the will every single time. If we set up one trust in 2022 and we have more assets we want to move into in 2023 and more assets still in 2024, we use the same trust and we just add to the individual's family or their estate or their family trust, what have you, we add another promissory note per transaction. But we can have as many transactions as you have assets that make sense because they are highly appreciated to use the deferred sales trust as a financial tool to defer taxes.
So I can get started with my one trust and I could have 5 different assets that I sell over the next 5 years. And then I would slowly move the equity into the trust in exchange for a promissory note. And as a reminder, promissory note is just a debt instrument, right? Essentially saying that, hey, someone or something owes me the money. And so the deferred sales trust, remember, you are lending the funds to the trust in exchange for a promissory note. It's what every bank has. If you have a loan on anything, they own the promissory note. That's the asset. This would be your asset. Remember, you don't own the trust, because if you own the trust, you just sold it to yourself, and that'd be taxable. That's why it involves a third-party trustee. That's why it's specialized. That's why it's different than your living trust, which has to do with probate and making sure that your heirs or whoever you'd like receive your estate in the way that you want to receive it. The deferred sales trust is a business trust that only does business with you, and if you're married, your spouse. And second, it owes you the money slowly over time. And so your security is this promissory note, and that can be put inside of your living trust so that your children, your heirs, can step into your shoes. And so, can you sell multiple assets using the deferred sales trust? The answer is yes. Now, Jake, there is a time though we might use two. Could you maybe walk through a couple scenarios of why we might use two, and in particular, how that would work?
Absolutely. So in the scenario, and a lot of it has to deal with deal flow, has to deal with gross proceeds in a given year. And should an individual single 5 million or above, we may want the more flexible DST 1.0 for the first 5 million and implement the 2.0 for the amount above that. Or married filing joint, it's of course double, because now instead of single, there's two people. So $10 million and below, we would encompass that within a DST 1.0, which again has a little bit more flexibility of turning income on, turning income off, things of that nature. Whereas the 2.0 version has some other benefits, but also a little bit less flexibility in the sense that once you turn income on, it's on and it continues on forever, which is fine, because there are obviously the requirements of how this works, and we try to keep everybody within the guardrails. But there are those instances, Brett, where primarily based on amount, if people supersede the 5 million single, 10 million married filing joint, that we would implement a DST 1.0 as well as a DST 2.0.
Very well said. And also to add to that, that was perfect, Jake. We also want to look at what problem we're trying to solve, right? So there are times where someone might have a $5 million or $4 million asset sale and they're single, but their overall net worth is greater than, if they're married, 24 million, or if they're single, 12 million. And so they're looking at this as not only to defer some capital gains tax, but also to solve the estate tax problem. The estate tax problem, which is that 40% death tax we talked about earlier. So really important to clarify what's the problem, what are you trying to solve, where you're trying to go, and what strategy will help you best. Now, the good news is both strategies cost the same. There's no additional cost there, but there are some nuances there. And also the other reason we might use the DST 2.0 is because of what Jake referred to as what's called the basically no interest charge on installment sale 453 for the first 5 million single or 10 million married in any given year for anyone. So if you're going to want to do an installment sale, for example, on a $20 million asset that you're selling, and you're deferring $20 million of gross proceeds, right? What the government's going to do is they're going to say, on a traditional 453, they're going to say, hey, that difference between 20 and 10 million, which is basically the limit, you can still do the 20 million, but we're going to charge you money. We're going to charge you interest, and it could be 2 or 3%, somewhere around there or so, for basically them not receiving their money quite yet. But if you're at 10 million and below and you're married, it's a 0% interest. So the money that you would have owed, or you do owe to them, is in a deferral state at 0%. Above that, it gets 2 or 3%. And so the creative, really smart tax attorneys that created this deferred sales trust, they said, we have a different strategy for that, which is it's separate from 453. It's a different tax code, which has no limitations on the amount. In fact, one of the biggest deals, Jake, was a $100 million deal. And this deal was audited, by the way. No change, no findings. But let's just talk briefly about just the track record of the deferred sales trust legally. And number two, what's the sleep well at night, lifetime audit defense? What does that look like?
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the audit defense first and foremost. Since you brought up that one deal, the biggest deal that had the deepest dive audit, so to speak, over $120 million. And of course, it got the attention of various taxing entities, not just the federal government, but the state of Cali taxation, right? And of course, the law firm, which was founded by the founder of this strategy, Todd Campbell, this law firm stepped in and represented the client from A to Z, There was some internationalness involved with ownership and everything else. And so there were a lot of complexities, but in a relatively short period of time. I mean, how often does the IRS or the state of California do an audit and have it all taken care of in just a couple of months? Almost never. But it was such a clean case that out of everything that was provided and out of all the information that was handed over and out of the proper representation that cost the client nothing extra, because it was all included from day one when they started the trust, right? Zero findings, zero changes, which essentially is like the IRS saying that, hey, I'm backing away, state of California, I'm backing away. There's nothing else that we can get out of you. You've done things in a way that is beyond us stepping in and trying to put our fingers into your little pot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they're owed what they're owed, and they're doing what they're doing when it's due. But we follow the laws and the rules, and we do the regulations, just like a 1031 exchange or a 401k or a charitable remainder trust or opportunity zones. As long as you follow the rules and the regs, right, and you're doing it properly, then it's all legal and it works, right? It's when you step out of bounds is where people can get in trouble with different strategies. So you want to make sure you have the team, the expertise, and everyone on board to make sure that we're doing things correctly. That being said, too, the government actually really does win here as well. What's really cool about that sale, right, is there's new property tax value. So the state of California does get a new property tax, which is huge, right? If you imagine you bought something, I don't know the exact value, but let's just say 25 million, and then you sell it for 120 million. That's a huge increase in property tax. Number two, the client is going to receive income from the trust. They're going to pay they're going to pay income tax on that, right? Any interest that you receive is ordinary income tax. And number three, that extra 120 million is going to be infused into the economy, right? It could be real estate, which, by the way, housing is a big challenge. So deferred sales trust clients can use this to build multifamily housing or rent, single family home rentals, or as long as investment. That's the encouragement of what the government wants to do. They want to create rules and incentives to encourage commerce. And this commerce creates more jobs, creates more housing. Essentially, they want us to do what they can't do very well, and they can't force us to do these things. But as we do these things, we create, revenue, and we create housing, we create really opportunities for them to tax us, which is fine, right? And everything grows. And in other words, it's actually the biggest win for the government, because what's the opposite? What if we didn't have these incentives? Well, people probably wouldn't sell their assets as much, or maybe at all. They might just hold. They might just let it kind of wither away, and that's not great.
Yeah, I was just going to say that'd be very detrimental for our economy. Our economy is buoyed when there is transfer of capital. There needs to be movement of money. That's why every January we have a little bit of a lull. And typically, they call it the January effect. And it's not just the stock market, but it's our economy in general. Simply because of all the holidays in December, people spend, or they extend themselves, they use credit, whatever. They spend a lot of money for Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving right before, everything else. That January they're trying to recover. They're trying to pay back some of that debt, or they just don't have any extra cash because they spent all their savings, what have you. There's a lull because there's not as much movement of money and capital. And Brett, to your point, strategies like this and government programs that allow us to help clients with these types of strategies are here to help motivate the movement of capital, to help motivate the exchange of assets for cash, to help motivate this movement that allows our economy to thrive and to survive.
Yep. So it's a really great thing. It just, most people haven't heard about this because they're not selling million, 5, 10, 20, $100 million deals every day. In fact, it might be their one deal every 5 years or one deal in their lifetime. Or they're the really sophisticated, smart person who's doing a lot of these deals, and they thought their team would already have known about this, right? They make the assumption that everyone that I work with is already the best. And I thought the same thing too when I was at Marcus Millichap in 2009, learning about the Deferred Sales Trust. In fact, we thought we were the Navy SEALs of investment real estate, 1031 exchanges, and they are. I think Marcus Millichap is one of the best, if not the best investment real estate brokerage company in the world, let alone the US. Like, they're amazing, right? But my manager, bless his heart, he was humble enough and open-minded enough to actually bring in, who's one of our strategic alliances now, a gentleman to speak on the deferred sales trust, and it was like, whoa, like if this is real, this will change everything. But what you'll quickly learn, it's not just the knowledge of the information or the strategy, it's the ability to have a team to execute that, right? To make sure you're following all of the proper procedures to do that. And that's why we opened up capital gains tax solutions. This is why we're a trustee. This is why we work with the best, we believe, in the world, like people like Jake Miller, who's an amazing financial advisor, to bring a team to this transaction to not replace your existing folks, right? But to actually complement and grow. Think of it like abundance. It's a bigger team now, especially the first person to help you, the client or broker or CPA, from 0 to 1 million or 1 to 10 million, or even 10 to 50 or 100 million, may not be the same team to help you go 10x where you're at. And that's what we want to invite you into, an opportunity to work with us, to explore the deferred sales trust. It's part of the way we work at no cost, no obligation. We only get paid at closing. We only get paid on performance. We're basically commission-based at closing, and we have recurring fees and to keep the management of the trust, everything going. But we'll do all of the analysis, all of the comparison. And at the end of the day, if it's not a good fit, we're going to tell you that straight up. And we're going to tell you to do that 1031, do that cost segregation study, do that opportunity zone. If you're really charitably inclined, do that CRT or donor advised fund. We really thrive on just helping you clarify what you're looking to do, and then delivering on and helping you find that person to help you deliver on that solution. That being said, Jake, are you ready to open it up for some questions from the audience? Because we've been talking a lot, man. I know we can talk a lot, and but I'd like to hear from anyone or everyone. You can type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and say hello. No question's a bad question.
I was just going to say that it's an exciting time of year because a lot of people are doing things, whether it's for tax purposes or it's just the year is wrapping up. So they got to get these things done so that they can go on that vacation, right? Or be with family, or at least have peace of mind that they're starting the new year fresh with what they've structured, right?
Yeah. I'll call him Pierce too. Pierce, you there, man? I'm seeing you in the chat now. It's good to see you here. Pierce is co-host of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, and he's also a realtor extraordinaire in Newport Beach. Pierce, how you doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you guys?
Doing well. You
guys were just on a roll, man. I just didn't want to interrupt the flow.
Like you're lounging. You get a good nap during our talk there, or what?
No, not yet. It's been it's a good workout, and just getting ready to go out and crush the day. But got to get my Friday mastermind group in. So it's always learning, always growing.
Excellent. Any questions or thoughts, Pierce, on anything that we just said that maybe you want to highlight or you want to add to?
I do, yeah. So we kind of talked about a little bit about the differences between the DST 1.0 and DST 2.0, and you said that the DST 2.0 has a different tax code. And you always said, make sure you know what tax codes they're based off of. So what's the tax code for the 2.0?
So we are happy to share that via an NDA, because that one is a little more proprietary and not something that we regularly share with folks until we're under a call with the tax attorneys. So yeah, and the 453 is you go, well, why can't you share that and not the other one? Well, it's so common, right? It's so common as an installment sale that they have no problem with us sharing that. But when we start getting to the other ones, we don't want to leave any breadcrumbs for the competitors who could be listening to this. So, but that's a good question, Pearson. Offline, I'm happy to talk to you because you're under NDA. And but for the rest of the world out there who might be listening, you got to get with us, connect with us. That's also why we work on a no cost, no obligation basis, right? So we basically say, hey, come to the table. We'll provide you with some solutions. You sign a conditional engagement agreement, or if it's your professionals who want to look into it, sign an NDA. Then we'll basically open up the playbook or the recipe, if you will. And then you decide if you want to use it or not. If you don't, you don't owe us anything. Does that make sense, Pierce?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything else there? Comments or thoughts or questions from you?
Brett, where are we going to be here in a week or so?
So in 1 week, we will be in another country at an undisclosed location. Now we'll be in Cabo, and Jake and I will be at a little mini summit. In fact, with a client of ours, a DST client of ours. He is excited to introduce us to some of his clients, and we'll be hanging out at a cool resort And Jake, in fact, you'll be speaking on, what are you speaking on, Jake?
Global economy outlook for 2023, as well as investment diversification. So similar to our conversation today, but a little bit more specific to real estate, the stock market, and other alternatives.
It's going to be incredible. In fact, depending on the timing of all of these talks, it may overlap with our DST mastermind. So you guys might be able to get a live feed. I'm going to talk with the hotel and the people there, see if we can get that streaming. So otherwise, Pierce, you might be running it by yourself, FYI.
Right on.
So be thinking about that.
But go get a haircut.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, get a haircut. Maybe get out of the bed. You know what I mean? Get things cleaned up a little bit there.
Good chill day. It's raining outside at the beach. I don't know what to do with my life right now.
This is California, man. We need the rain, man. This is a good thing.
Rain here. I don't know. I don't know what. Like I looked outside and it's gray, and I was like, "What is this?" Like I'm in the beach. Like doesn't gray here. It's like the world doesn't know what's going on.
So Paris, we talked before about hiring your children as a tax strategy. Now you have to put them to work. One needs to hold the umbrella while you're outside in the rain. The other holds the camera, and you can present.
Hey, you know what? It's a good idea because I learned I could get paid. I could put that into their Roth IRAs up to like $1,200, something like that, for them taking photos on our Instagrams. Yeah. Fun fact.
Well, if they do enough, you can pay them up to $12,000, though it has to be appropriate based on their work, what they actually do. But then in addition, you can also fund their IRA. So up to $18,000 per kid, you could be putting away and not pay taxes on yourself, because of course you're paying for your kids' stuff anyway. You might as well let them pay it because they're on payroll, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Anyway, just another little thing that we add to our clients to help them be more efficient.
This was really just a shameless plug to say like, hey, like how many like strategies there are here with this dream team that we got going on here. So
I thought it was a shameless plug to talk about all the kids you have.
Yeah, Brett's got more than me, so he should be leveraging some IRA accounts over there. We digress.
No doubt. Well, this has been really, really good. I think everyone got a good sense of the power of the Deferred Sales Trust as regards to diversification, and especially in times like this. And we want to encourage you again to clarify where you're trying to go with your wealth plan, with your time, your energy, and how the Deferred Sales Trust can be that tool, that strategy, and how our team can help you execute on that. And so if you're interested at all in taking the next step, why don't you join us on the mastermind? Come on in here. We can hang out, get to know us a little bit more, schedule a one-on-one consultation. If you have a live deal and or a deal that you're going to be selling in the next, 6 to 12 months, especially if it's $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com to start that. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have content releasing every single day. Videos, not just on the Deferred Sales Trust, but on experts in real estate and financial advising, CPAs, leadership, business, everything to do with helping you grow yourself, grow your profits, and exit really smart and defer capital gains tax, all of the stuff with wealth and growth. So check that out, Capital Gains Tax Solutions, for the YouTube channel, the podcast. And then from there as well, Jake, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So strategictaxsolutions.com. There's the website. We have a little blurb about the Deferred Sales Trust. We have an 800 number, 1-800-773-1848. Visit the website. Visit us here next Friday. Might be live streamed from another country. Could be good. But every Friday we're here broadcasting, and happy to have people join us, comment, ask questions, share their stories, and ask us live their questions.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. And Pierce is down in Newport Beach. He's a commercial real estate agent as well as a luxury agent. So if you're in down there, you can get with Pierce. He has got Kingdom Luxury Realty as well as his website and his group on YouTube. So check all that out. That being said, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thanks. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please just click the little like button. That'll help the algorithm and help us to get the message out to more people. And we look forward to being back next week. Have a great week, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.